Welcome to the Mind Your Wedding Business podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 30 years ago. Each week on this podcast, you'll hear thought-provoking and empowering interviews with wedding professionals who have found success in the industry. If you're a business-minded wedding pro who loves love, but also cares about their bottom line, buckle up and get ready to learn from a new industry expert each week.
All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis, and I'm here with Adrienne Gardner, and she's going to be talking to us today about, is it time to expand? ? And we're going to get into that. But before we do, Adrienne, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got you here today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Excited to be here. My name is Adrienne. So I've been in hospitality for, 25-ish years. I started off like a lot of you guys as a wedding planner and had my own business. And I grew that into a venue management company. So I had that for quite a few years, managed a bunch of properties in Denver, Colorado. And from there, I jumped into some full-time employment. Like a lot of us kind of bounce around a little bit and I like to do consulting and speaking, and I also help out some hospitality and creative businesses with their sales and operational improvements. So, and I'm here today because I like your show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And like seeing the clips, and I feel like there's, tremendous value to what the people you bring on the show. And even sometimes I'm listening, I'm like, oh, that's good. And I'll like write something down. I'm like, oh, I like how that sounds. So yeah, excited to, if there's anything I can do to help out our community, and I'm all for it. So
I love it because that's what it's about. It's all about the community. But I appreciate you're the first one to ever say that. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, all right. So we're talking about time to expand, more staff, more work. How do you know you're actually ready for your first full-time hire? So
sure.
I'm really excited to jump into that. So when are you, when is it time to expand? Or, how do you know it's time to expand?
You know what's funny? It's like you're ready, but you're also never ready to give good context. I feel like, to start broad, right?
Well, it's funny because when I was preparing for the episode, I was thinking back to when I hired my first person. I was like,
yeah,
I was never ready for that. Never.
No. So as an entrepreneur, obviously there's got to be a little bit of, what's that tin cup phrase? Like grip it and rip it, right? You gotta have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I think we all grow, and probably you too. You get a little older, you get a little wiser. You look back and you're like, man, I should have maybe thought about a few of these things. So I'm going to try to share some of those today, but also at the same time, have a realistic understanding that we're not here for a long time, right? And a lot of these businesses won't be around forever. So yeah, there has to be a little bit of risk involved and a little bit of like, hey, no, I want to have a larger business. So this is what I'm going to try to do, right? So, you can't be afraid. But as I tell my daughter when she's scared of stuff, we have a family saying like, oh, I'm scared or I'm afraid. And you're like, so what do? I do it scared. So you just do it anyways. But I actually compiled like a list of questions that if I were to go back to my first full-time hire, I probably would have asked myself these questions.
Okay. I love it.
And my first one was a big question was, why would I want to expand? So I would encourage you to start with why, right? So, and it hopefully isn't for any sort of ego-based reason. Like, well, everybody else has more people than me, or, everyone says I'm really good, so I should expand, right? Like try to shelve those things. I know it's very hard to, but putting those things aside. And why do you want to expand? Have you always dreamed of having a larger business? Do you want to be more in a leadership role instead of an operator? Kind of drilling into, I think, or are you burnt out? That's okay if that's a reason why you want to expand. We'll go into that as well today. But understanding, I think, at your base level of why you wish to expand, because there's plenty of people and there's plenty of, groups that I work with that have no desire to expand. They're like, this is where I want to stay. I make good money. I pay my bills. I'm good, and then other ones are like, I'm bored. What's next?
Oh, okay.
So
I
I think
love
it's yeah.
I
So I
love
think it's
starting with the why.
start with the why, right? We've all probably read that Simon book too.
Yeah,
Start
yeah,
with
yeah.
your why, but understand what's really motivating you to have those feelings. I think is really important because obviously, we'll drill into the money and ideal scenarios for cash flow, but if you don't really understand why you're doing it, I would urge you to just not and wait.
And looking back, I don't think I knew the why. I just was trying to handle the demand that was
Oh
coming.
yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? But I
but
didn't
that
have. But I guess that is a little bit of the why.
It
But
is it is
yeah,
yeah, if you're
yeah,
turning away business, right? So
yeah, yeah.
that's a lot of whys. It's like, there's just you, right? And you booked on a Saturday, you get 4 more leads. So I do think it's very important that as people are looking to expand, you should be keeping track of the deals you lose due to availability.
Yeah. All right, I
So a
love it.
little bit of proof of concept, if you will, and to kind of give you a little bit of hopefully like, well, I know that, I'm going to have the jobs to support this person. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times, you want to hire somebody, you're like, okay, I want to get them X amount of jobs. Like, but there's so much unknown. But if you can
Mhm.
go back and say, okay, over the last 2 seasons, I have lost X amount of revenue because of availability. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. So one of my questions, like, again, was, am I busy? Or this is from my notes. I was brainstorming this morning. Am I busy or
I love it.
am I profitable?
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So one of the things I worked with a client on recently that I felt like really supported this conversation today was understanding your true net off of every job.
Mhm.
And I'm not just talking about, let's say you're a planner or a DJ. I'm not just talking about the 5 hours you put in or the 12 hours you put in that day, but
Yeah.
all the stuff that leads to that,
Yeah,
right?
from booking to
The whole
yeah.
shebang.
Yeah.
The whole shebang. And, tracking your time. I know a lot of apps do it, but having a good knowledge of these are my different services. This is how much labor is put into it. And then factoring in, of course, all of your expenses. But I am usually a little surprised at times when people don't really know how much they make off of a job.
Mhm.
So if you don't really know that, how can you ever understand how you can factor in another human being?
Mm, good point.
And I'm sure, and everybody wants to take care of their staff. They do. They want to
Yeah.
take good care of them. They have the best intentions in the whole wide world. But one of the best things you can do is have a realistic expectation of the financial performance of your business,
Yeah. That's a good point.
right? Because I think people can deal with just about anything as long as it's transparent and real,
Yeah, but then
right?
it probably gives you realistic, like, all right, if I hire someone, I pay him X amount, and we have this job, I'm going to need 30 more jobs to pay this or whatever that,
Yeah.
math. You
And
could do simple math. At that point, it's simple math.
it's simple math, and you should run literally all of those, ideal scenarios. And I think one of the follow-up questions to that is like, can I afford to pay this person? But it's also, can I afford to pay this person if things aren't great,
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay.
So I think if COVID kind of taught us anything, right? And we
Yep.
can get into 1099 versus employees, of course. We could chat through that a little bit today if we I don't know, that might be
I was gonna
another
say
subject
that's
matter.
probably a whole nother
I
podcast.
know, right?
That's like
I don't
a,
know if
and
we
I'm
got to
here in
get
California, so it's really, really, we're really crap or cranked down on all that
strict
stuff.
on
So
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
exactly. So, and I know some states I see are like the Wild West, right?
yep,
But again, like thinking COVID, it kind of showed us again, you might be chugging along, but things can slap you upside the head. Very much our businesses are so contingent on relationships.
hmm
So, let's say you're in good with a couple of great venues, a couple of great planners, they refer you so much business and you're expanding based on the expectation of performance of that relationship.
hmm
I'm not telling you not to. I'm just saying to understand that level of risk
yeah,
that you're doing because you are attaching yourself to another person's business. And just like, they could decide to go get a full-time job.
yep,
They could decide that they don't want to come back after having a baby. And
yeah,
then what does that do to your business and what you systems you have in place? So again, I encourage you to kind of look again like at the health of your business, And, again, what can you do to survive? And the golden rule is to have, 3 to 6 months of money in the bank for that person.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to
Yeah.
pay them, yeah, and that can be a lot of money for these small businesses.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I'll be super honest, I did not have that when I hired my first person.
I'll be honest, I didn't either.
I knew the way you said the first part, I'm like, he
Yeah.
was a lot like me.
Yeah.
And, but I'll tell you, I lost sleep. I'd be like sweating
stress.
bullets.
Oh, yeah.
The stress is massive. So if you can get ahead, then, it's going to make everything a lot easier. It's going to help you sleep a little bit better too at night, knowing that you have that little bit of cushion that, yes, if that venue decides to sell, which is happening and all over the place,
Yeah.
then you're not attached to it.
Well, and even where I am in California, we have a lot of wineries, so we work with a lot of these winery properties. But I have friends across the country that work at all these different hotels, and the hotel people are very, one day I'm a Marriott, next year I'm a Hilton, and then the year
Yeah.
after that I'm a Hyatt.
Yeah.
They just bounce from hotel to hotel. They're not.
Yeah.
There's no longevity. Where I feel like I'm pretty fortunate. Like one of the properties that I'm working at, my contact's been there over 20 years,
That's
so I have a
rare.
long, that's what I'm saying. So to have it's a lot of that is building these relationships and maintaining them, because you can't count on the next person that
one
comes into
person.
that hotel is going to still refer you,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of stress that goes into that.
There is. And so, having a diversified relationships, having a diversified portfolio of different types of clients, types of events, all those things just helps you be more resilient if something happens, right? Then it's not
Yeah.
that big of a deal.
No.
And it doesn't, create this huge ripple effect. You got to lay somebody off or whatever those things might be, which of course, we want to avoid at all
Yeah.
costs.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
COVID. I was going to say COVID was what really. I mean, people that get laid off, and then
Mhm.
when and I called it the big reset coming out of it, because we went here in California. Our last event was the weekend before we shut down. We had weddings, and then we didn't do another wedding, so that was March, and then we didn't do another wedding until Valentine's Day the following year. So that's how
Mm.
far we went without any events, because we were so locked down. But because of that, so many people in our market left to become real estate agents and all that. So it was this
Sure.
big reset. It was like having to relearn the staff at a property that we, pre-COVID had a phenomenal relationship with. And then,
Right.
trying to maintain the relationships, trying to maintain being on the preferred vendor list I
Mhm.
mean, it was a very difficult time because of all that. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
So, I think everything, in being an entrepreneur in these small businesses, like you learn so much, right? And I think
Mhm.
the biggest mistake is if you repeat the same mistake, right? I think you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna, maybe jump a little too soon or too late or whatever those things may be. But of course it's just an opportunity to learn. I feel like when I started expanding, one of the things that I wish I had done differently was I didn't really have some really solid systems.
Okay.
I relied a lot on my talent as a planner, as a coordinator. But as far as when I had my first hire, who's still one of my great friends, which I love that,
Yeah.
uh, it was a little bit like, "Hi, welcome to the party."
Yeah.
So I was so lucky that she was organically very good at her job. I got
Okay.
so lucky with her,
Yeah.
and I did not get lucky with some other ones down the line.
So you should
So down
probably
the
have
line, it definitely showed that I did not have these systems.
well, I was gonna say,
So
so you should probably have SOPs or some kind of
yes,
processes in
yes,
place before you decide
for
to make this.
you right. So if you were gonna like replicate what you do, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's DJ coordination planning, whatever, if you were gonna replicate it, like how do you train? What are your expectations of that person? And also, having a realistic expectation that they're not you and they're
Yeah.
not the owner of the business, and they're not going to treat it like their business because it's not, it's their job.
Hmm.
They're not going to give their blood, sweat, and tears for it like you have. So it's going to
Yeah.
be different. So having a realistic expectation of how that's going to be different. But yes, like setting them up for success with these, procedures. Like when we started getting really good at it, with our venue management company, with the procedures at each facility, how we trained event managers, and it got so much more effective and efficient. But yeah, definitely initially we didn't have a lot of that, and it would show because I think you had a hire that was okay. They were capable, but because our systems weren't super great, they struggled.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
and I was going to ask, do you think that like a new hire, when you bring them in, you're setting them up for more success by having all this in place? Plus, you might get a little bit more buy-in from them because it's like, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z because I got to keep up, and or if I come in and you're coming into a hot mess, they're like, oh, I could be a hot mess and be lazy and do what. So it's kind of, I feel like it goes both ways there.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you set the standard, right? Of
Mhm.
course. So, if you have high standards of yourself, of organization, communication with your clients, you document all these things, like you set the pace, right? As the
Yeah.
owner, when you initially kind of maybe bring in your first new hire. And yes, absolutely. But I also think, again, hindsight, as you grow, like I think having a level of organization and processes, it also shows a level of care and respect for that
Mm.
individual as they
Okay.
come into an organization. My biggest horror story that I share sometimes is, working for a bigger company and having staff show up for their first day and their computers aren't ready. Their computer didn't even
Mm.
get delivered yet. Like they're not ready
Yeah.
for that new person. So, put yourself in your new hire's position. It's your first day. Like, what would you want your first day to be like?
That's
Right?
a good.
Um, w what would you want that experience? What would you wanna know? What expectations do you wanna have set? Because just like most people wanna do their jobs very well. Like,
Yeah.
nobody really kinda goes into it, like, with this slacker mode or I wanna fail mode. They wanna do well, but they need you to help them do it.
Well, I've had one of those, but anyway.
Did you Well,
Uh,
that's what we say, Kevin, we all make a bad hire. It's okay.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
as a leader, you gotta recognize when you did it and not mess around too long and just be like, "Yeah, that wasn't a great choice.
No.
Like,
No.
let's keep it moving."
I still PSD from that one. It just that person haunts me. Anytime I see someone that even looks remotely like that person, I'm like, oh, just
I
like,
I think we all have those moments, and I think sometimes, and that goes into, I think, another topic of this when it comes to expansion is like a desperate hire, right?
yeah.
So, like hiring out of desperation, like I can't expand. I'm so burnt out. I'm so tired. But I don't really have the cash in the bank. I need somebody to come in and start working Saturday.
Yeah.
If you're going after it in that way, it's probably not gonna be good, right?
Yeah.
Like, number 1, maybe the money isn't quite right, you don't really have that dialed in. Number 2, you're gonna compromise on something if you try to hire that fast and out of that level of desperation, probably potentially not the right fit. You might end up with a 1099 versus an employee. I do believe employees build businesses and 1099s fill in gaps. I think that's a very clear
Yeah.
difference between what you're trying to do, and that kinda goes back to that why again, of those, again, are you trying to build a big business, or are you just trying to fill in a couple of Saturdays?
Yeah, and I feel like people that are 1099s are always looking over their shoulder for the next great
W
opportunity or,
well, I mean, in my market, it's like, they show up and I'm like, "Who are you working for today?" You know?
oh, okay.
Right? And
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with it. The clients don't seem to care. The execution is still solid, but I think, there's no, repping of brand loyalty when that kinda
yeah,
happens. But again, if that's a gap that you're just trying to fill in for a little short amount of time, I don't really think it's that bad. But again, if your goal is to build a business with brand loyalty and consistent employees and those sort of things, if you're hiring somebody who's also coordinating for 4 other companies, like, what do you expect? Like, that's not
yeah,
their fault.
yeah. Because that's
That's
well, and that could hurt your relationships with all these other companies. Because like, who are they? they're building a relationship for themselves, but they're also maybe they're there working for your company, but they're, maybe feel a little bit more loyal to the other company. And I could see a lot of bad going on with that.
Right. Right. So, yeah, and I think that brings me to another segue is that I feel like expansion will magnify your problems if you have them.
Oh, okay.
So, I think like, you know, and I'll give you some ideas around that, right? So let's say you have a problem controlling communication with your clients, right? They step all over you. I feel like that's always a common thing. Like, you're too much of a people pleaser. And, I text them at 10 p.m. Okay. So let's say you're texting your clients at 10 p.m. or you're emailing your clients at 10 p.m. and your new hire just happens to be on that email and they see
Yeah.
you do it. They see you doing that.
Yeah.
You're setting the standard that that's what you expect, whether you believe it or not. I've been that person who's like, just because I do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dumb
Yeah.
dumb. Such a dumb dumb. Sorry, ladies who I told that to. I'm so sorry. But, but they saw me doing it and they wanted to do a good job for me. So they started doing it too.
Yeah.
So we started with this problem of, not having a good work-life balance. I kind of don't like that cliche term, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not doing that and me kind of saying it was okay. And then I bring these people in and they see me doing it. And then all of a sudden they all have my problem. I'm like, where did this come from? How do you guys all have my problems?
Yeah.
So
Well, and I
yeah,
mean,
you
even
expand
even
it.
with that, there's a lot of tech tools now that maybe
You don't
you
need to do
might,
it.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna say you might work better at 10 o'clock at night, but you can then schedule emails to go out at 9:05 the next morning, so then it looks like you're working, normal business hours and not. And even
I
SMS
love
now,
that.
you could do that with
Yeah,
SMS too. So
it's so good. I say like hide your crazy, right?
yeah,
Like don't don't let them see it,
yeah. I mean,
right?
last night I'm involved in the local little league. We had a little league board meeting, but I was so amped up from what happened at the board meeting. I came home and I jumped on my email and I was working on my email, but I didn't send anything. I was, I scheduled everything, but I worked until like about 11:30, 12 o'clock last night. So
I think that's fine. I love the schedule to send feature. I think
yeah.
sometimes I'll like schedule to send 6 and I'll accidentally send 2 of them. I'm like,
Oh,
damn. Oh no. And they're like, and then undoubtedly it's one person who's like, why are you working so late? You're like, yeah,
yeah,
I didn't mean to hit send.
yeah.
Didn't mean to do that.
So you were talking earlier about being overwhelmed or burned out, like when you're trying to expand. Can you like explain, like, is that a good time to hire if you're overwhelmed or burned out, or is that a bad time to hire, or does that fall in under the desperation category?
Oh man, I think it really depends on you as a person a little bit.
Okay.
I think some people can be burnt out, a little overworked, but still have a good eye on their business, a solid understanding of their goals for their
Mm,
business, right? And then other people are not like that. Other people, you're tired, you're irrational. So I think you kind of got to, again, look at your why, look at your foundation. Because
okay.
yes, maybe that stressful scenario was a trigger you needed to make a choice. I think in business, we all have trigger events, right?
Hmm.
Something will happen that will make you do something for your business. But go back to kind of, does this align with my long-term objectives? And
Okay.
if it was generated out of stress, oh well, if
Yeah.
you've done the homework, you got the money, it's in alignment with what you want to do, but it just so happens that you're really stressed out right now and that's what you needed to go ahead and make this scary decision, then okay. So I wouldn't necessarily be deterred by an emotional response
Okay.
to how you feel about your business in general. I'm definitely one of those people that I think, your left and right brains, all that can live together. Your emotional side and your logical side can work together and support one another. So I would be listening to how you feel, but then go back to your goals and your intentions.
Yeah. Now, do you
Yeah.
think, like, I'm thinking about hiring someone, is it better to hire someone part-time to like put our toe in the water, like dabble in this first, or jump fully into a full-time position, or is it based on need, or Is there a right or
Yeah.
wrong to any of that?
Oh man, there's so many different scenarios that you could
Okay.
go with.
All right.
I would say it's based on a few things, right? It's based on, your current need. Again, are you trying to just kind of clone yourself, which I feel like is a fairly normal thing in our industry? I just want to take more jobs. I just want to do this. Are you creating an entirely different role? Meaning, are you looking to hire somebody to take over your administrative stuff? Maybe your marketing, maybe your social media. Are you building an entire job? Right. So
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, like outline what you want this person to do. Right.
Yeah.
Get on ChatGPT, get on Indeed, see how people are, look at all these different jobs, right? But figure out where your pain points are and what you're trying to do. I would say, if you're not looking to copy paste yourself, it's always a good idea to look at kind of your day to day as an entrepreneur and look at what is a task that is not so related to me as the owner, as my personality, right? And I think that's why administrative, marketing, social media, those are a good first hire if it's
Yeah.
not related to ops. Those are a
Okay.
great first hire. A lot of times you can find somebody to do those sort of things part-time from home at a reasonable hourly rate. So it's not necessarily, so that's not a bad way to dip your toe in the water of a new hire.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for me, my first real hire was a full-time coordinator.
Okay.
So, and how I kind of landed there was the demand was there. So I had tracked that I was losing jobs. I was turning away business. I was like, okay. And then I knew I could, the volume was there to support this person. Right. And my objective was to build, I think I was trying to get 2 to 3 coordinators. And then from there, I was going to look at a support and person for all of us. And that was kind of my plan. So again, I think everybody kind of has to figure out their process there, but the demand was there. I could kind of afford them. Let's be honest. It was tight,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me, the risk was worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
It was important. It was an important step in my business. And I did a lot of very basic math. So meaning like for the next year, this is my entire business. Now I'm factoring in this person. How many jobs do I need? How many meetings do I need to have per week? So I factored everything back in order to support that individual. So I'm like, okay, if I am not booking 2 jobs per week, I am off track to pay for this person.
Yeah.
So I knew all the time what needed to be done to stay on track to afford this person.
Yeah.
And I would say, and I think, speaking with somebody that I'm working with right now is their struggle of finding a quality part-time person
It's hard.
is hard,
Yeah.
right? It's like, it's a gig type situation. There's the urgency that you're maybe after. I also asked this person, I'm like, if you're looking for urgency and response and all of these things out of a part-time employee, that's a concern too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to be looking at the job and what you're after and what you're creating. And that being said, but maybe you can't afford a full-time person,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then you need to adjust what that job looks like so it's more realistic to a part-time person. I think what I see a lot of is people are after full-time engagement, meaning like, I only want you to work 20 hours a week, but I want you to do what I want you to do when I need you to do it. I need you to be responsive to me. I need all of these things, but I can only afford you at $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And then the pool of talent isn't matching that need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's okay. If you can only afford that, then you need to adjust your expectation.
Yeah. It's funny you say that the $20 an hour. It's I'm here in California, so In-N-Outs are big here, and so I always look because In-N-Out always has a sign that they're hiring and how much they're hiring for, and I'm always like, I'll be in the drive-through, and I'm like, well, we need to raise everyone's rates because we need to be $1 or $2 pay more than $1 or $2 than In-N-Out does to try to attract these people because they think they can go flip burgers and make all this money because in our market, In-N-Out pays very well. So
Yeah. And they're similar in the Colorado market as well. But yeah, you bring up such a good point of being very much aware of what people can make doing literally anything.
Mm-hmm.
around you, right? And it's like, in my previous world, it was truck drivers, right?
No.
So it's like, what can a guy make at Amazon versus what can a guy make delivering chairs?
Mm.
We should know that, right? Like that's
Yeah.
important. So yes, to your point, like you got to know what's going on, or else just be like, oh, where did all my people go?
Yeah.
They all went over here to In-N-Out Burger, or they're all
Well,
driving for Amazon.
it's funny. I just thought of something. I was the WIPA national president for several years, and I went to Colorado to do or Denver area to do their SOP training, and I was talking with some of them there, and the caterers were struggling because to get servers because they were making more money working for all the cannabis folks there, and so they were. It was like the struggle's real, and they were like they were having a hard time like justifying raising the price for, with the clients, it was, but again, it's the same as In-N-Out Burger, just having your eyes open to what's going on out there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, and nobody says you have to make adjustments or compromise. You do what you think is right. But
Yeah.
if you don't know, then you, of course, have no idea, how to adjust. Right.
Yeah.
But I would say kind of at my core to answer that big question fully, I do believe if at all possible, full-time employees, right? Try to get people that will help you build your business, right? Try to get people that are, that you can nurture, you can work with, that you can help grow. Like those are the relationships. And then all of a sudden that person's not your coordinator, they're your marketing manager and they're helping you like build
Hmm.
relationships with venues all over the city. This is a true story. So, like I think that means a lot, and it shows your investment in those individuals, right? But
Yeah.
again, but they cost dough. So
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
the
All
math's
right.
got a math.
Yeah, exactly. And it's simple math, and it's not really difficult math to do as well. So, all right.
It's scary math though. I find
Yeah.
most
No, it
they don't like
is.
to do it because it's scary.
Yeah.
And it can be off-putting and you're like, "Oh man, I really need to raise this division's price point by like 20%." I'm like, "Yeah, yesterday." Or
Yeah.
else why do you have it?
Yeah. I agree. All right, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but are there any long-term consequences, like if someone hires or brings someone on too early? Like,
Mm,
like
sure.
does
Yeah.
it set 'em up to fail? I mean, we touched on it, but
Yeah.
we weren't looking.
You
I mean, we were looking like at the immediate, but like long term.
Sure. I mean, you go broke. I'm just kidding. That's a little
Yeah,
dramatic. I mean,
yeah.
slightly dramatic. I mean, so yeah. And I mean, again, a little level of risk. But yeah, let's say you hire too early. Let's say things get slow, money's not in the bank. You know,
Hmm.
I think that a level of transparency with your employees is okay. I know some people will disagree with that, and that's okay. That, like, if your business is in financial trouble, I'm not saying you should ring the fire alarms, but shouldn't you maybe talk to them before you bounce a check?
Yeah,
Just a suggestion. Um, I know that that's a scary thing. It's a sad thing, but at the same time, those people deserve it.
yeah,
So I would say, you know, and I'm always surprised at when you give people kind of honest information. They're like, okay. Right. And yeah,
yeah,
they might bail on you for it, but at the same time, maybe you'll build some amazing relationship with this individual. You have no idea. But
yeah,
anyways, so to kind of go back to your question there. So I hired too early. Yeah. Let's say the money's not right. I lose some relationships, right? Of course, you could let that person go. You go back to being a solo entrepreneur, and
yeah,
then maybe you try again. So I think sometimes there's a little bit like, so what if you messed up, you know? And so what if people knew that you had an employee and it didn't work out? Who
yeah,
cares? Who
yeah.
cares? So I would say obviously that's maybe the worst case scenario, right?
Hmm.
Is that but I would say obviously keeping an eye on your money so you do it before you're not in a really, really bad spot and your entire business is in jeopardy that you probably used to pay your mortgage and sustain your life, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know, I think if you're borrowing money from one source to pay for another, to pay for your employees, it's a very bad sign, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not great. Um,
Yeah. I mean, at
but
that
yeah,
point, you got to be looking at your bottom line. What are you doing wrong?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I would say, yeah, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. You let that person go, right?
Yeah.
Or you drop their hours. Just say,
Yeah.
I did that during COVID with one, be like,
Hmm.
hey, I want to keep you. I can't do it. Like I can't, but I can afford you it here.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work for you, I totally understand. I'll be a reference for you. I love you to death. I was
Yeah.
like, but if you want to, I can keep you here.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's up to them on what they want to do.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. So, what's the hard truth about hiring that wedding pros don't want to hear?
That you have to do the math before you do it. I think
Okay.
that is my big thing for you guys is well over 50% of people I talk to don't do that.
Okay.
And so you have to do the math. You have to have a strong understanding. And I think it's interesting is like a lot of people in hospitality, you're like the extrovert, right? You're the fun person. You're all these things. You're like, but I'm not really good at accounting. And it's like, you don't have to be. There's robots that do it for you now,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't
Yeah.
have to be good at it. Just give it all your stuff and ask if you can afford an employee, and it will point blankly tell you no. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh darn it. So I would say that's the big thing. And I would say my other kind of my other little hill would be beware of the 1099s. Beware of
Yeah.
that. There's horror stories in every market of that going really backwards with the IR and the S,
Hmm.
and the penalties that can revolve around that. But then on top of that, again, I don't really think it's really great for your brand to have people hustling all over this city for a bunch of different people. I don't think that's
No.
a great. And if that's the only thing you can do, maybe evaluate it, maybe think about it.
Yeah. No. I mean that is really really good information because I think that no because you just think that it's the hard truth. I mean, it really is because the 1099 people we touched on it earlier, but they're not brand loyal. They're there to collect money and move on to the next opportunity that gives them money, but they're not
Exactly.
there to enhance your brand or make that experience. And I think the biggest thing is relationships because what we
Hmm.
do in this industry is all about relationships. And if you're not, and I have a saying, it's so true though, but you're only as good as your last event. And if this person goes and messes up your event and, it's hard to build back. But if you're there and you have that relationship with someone, hey, we messed up and this is what we did and how to fix it. And, it just, I think there's a little bit more forgiveness in there when it comes that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
And that contractor is going to bring their own systems, right? They're
yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
do it, they're not going to do it the way you want, right?
No.
Like, you can try to get them to do it your way, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because they don't technically have to.
I agree. All right, we're getting close. We're getting
Yeah.
close. So, if listeners take away just one thing about expanding their team, what should it be? Put you on the
What?
spot.
Oh, wow. Okay. Why do you want to expand?
It's the why. Okay,
Why do you want to expand?
I
And it
love it.
shouldn't be because the planner next to you at the networking event has 2 employees. That should not be the answer.
Okay, I love it. No, and that's a hard truth because you got to know what you're doing and why, and because if you don't have the why, I don't think you have the buy-in from whoever you're hiring.
It's not
So,
going to work. Yeah, it won't hold. It'll
yeah,
look good for 2 years and then you'll be like, "What happened?"
yeah,
Yeah.
nope, and you got to be in it to win it. So, all right.
Yeah.
Adrienne, thank you so much. Where can
Thank you, Kevin.
listeners connect with you and,
Yeah.
learn more about all your wonderful work that you're
Oh,
doing?
thank you so much. Yeah, you guys follow me. Check me out on Instagram at Gardner Effect, on my website, gardnereffect.com. Yeah. Thanks for
Okay.
having me, Kevin. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, it has been fun. And so and folks, we'll have all of Adrienne's information in the show notes and in the email blast that goes out. And if you're not signed up for the email blast, make sure you do because we send them out every week with all the good additional information from the episode as well. So, Adrienne, thank you for being here today. We really
Thank you.
appreciate your time and effort. And folks, we'll see you next time on another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business, brought to you by Wedding IQ. If you've got a topic you'd love to hear us cover, or if there's an area of your business you're struggling with, let us know and we'd be happy to help. Don't forget to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're a fan, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and left a review. It helps more wedding pros find us and learn more from our guests too. Thanks again for listening to Mind Your Wedding Business. We'll catch you next time.